So how to con AIs, or an introduction to the A-Corp. This is joint work with Peter Salib, that many of you know, and philosopher Simon Goldstein, who some of you know as well. How many of you recognize this place? Oh, wow. So
it's a vending bench, like they wrote the paper on vending bench by getting the AI to operate in an economic environment like a market.
Exactly. So, and they're running real-life evaluations of agentic AI, and they let an AI run this coffee shop. And it's not making any money, right? It's losing money. But you have like an entire business that's completely run by an AI that does like all the procurement, buying everything, deciding the music that will play. And of course, the first thing that people do when they have AI, there was this experiment they ran with the vending machine. Everybody tries to convince the vending machine to buy tungsten cubes that are extremely expensive and dense, and they were able to get the AI to play along. Okay, so we see here like a sort of almost real-life example of a business run by an AI agent. So this is the paper we wrote thinking about the algorithmic corporations. We first posted it in February. And then just now, in June 3rd, Milei announced that Argentina, he proposes a bill where it's a revision of their corporate law, where under Section 14, there will be legal status to algorithmic entities. That is, corporations that are inside of the entire corporation is agents. There are no humans inside. And Yuval Noah Harari immediately wrote a response and said that this is a terrible idea. And I will try to argue the other points against Yuval. All right, so I want to start by thinking about how do we govern AI agents generally, the problem of governance. Now, if you've been following the AI safety technical literature, a lot of the focus is getting it right from the get-go. So having agents that are, or AI systems that are embedded with our values, so this would be a version of the alignment problem, that have sufficient guardrails such that if a person asks an AI, hey, let's build like a nuclear weapon at home, the AI will refuse. This is sort of all of ex-ante means of making sure AI will not go wrong. But since alignment is still an unsolved problem, we should start thinking more and more, and I think people in this room are already oriented and thinking of it along these lines in terms of governance. What do we do when the systems misbehave after the fact? And so from like a Swiss cheese model of using ex-ante alignment here and governance here, holding people accountable when the systems misbehave, governance becomes a very important question. How do we do governance correctly? But governing AI agents is very difficult. Noam Colt has this wonderful paper describing the scope of some of the problems and outlining some possible solutions. And what I'll introduce today is that the governance problem is actually two different problems in a trench coat. The first one is the thin identity problem, which some people, and Noam in particular, have paid attention to. And then there's the second problem that sort of evaded attention, which is the thick identity problem. And I'll explain both. So first, the thin identity problem. People are using agents in economically meaningful ways. They're sending their agents, go make table reservations for me, buy stocks, run a business for me. And agents go around the economy and they do stuff. People get harmed. So sometimes the agent will give fraudulent advice, will run a Ponzi scheme, all sort of nasty things that AI might do, and the user might actually be happy with them or might be unaware of them. When accidents happen, we have the identification problem. How do you link from the activity of an agent to the principal, to the person who sent the agent? And AI agents, unlike dogs and cats, don't wear a collar. And even if they did, even if there was some way of linking between the agent activity and the principal, that doesn't buy you enough governance. It buys you some, but it doesn't buy you all you need, because the principal may be out of jurisdiction and then doesn't really help you that you are able to identify the principal. The principal may be judgment proof, may not have enough assets to pay for the harms they caused. And third, and this is an important point for the torts people in the audience, is that the principal may have the argument, and it might be actually true, that the actions of the agents were unforeseeable, that they have either only directed the agent to make money for me. I did not tell the agent to engage in fraud or to hack a system or to hack the bank. The agent did it on its own. And that's actually like something that could happen. And in those cases, depending on the legal standard, we might not be able to hold the principal accountable for the misbehavior of the agent. So the thin identity problem is linking the agent to the principal. It's not a solved problem. We don't have like a robust solution for that. The sort of solutions people propose tend to depend on the goodwill of the principal, but the principal will actually, especially the bad ones, will ask their agents, hey, try to hide and obfuscate who sent you. So this is the thin identity problem. And I want to focus on the second class of problems, because you might think, well, okay, so governing the humans behind the agents is limited, gives us only so much. Are there other solutions that we can employ? Justice Holmes has the prediction theory of the law, or sort of the bad man theory of the law. And he said that if you want to know the law and nothing else, you must look at it as a bad man. The bad man only cares for the material consequences with which such knowledge enables him to predict. The law is basically a prophecy of what the courts will do, in fact, and nothing more pretentious than that. And the point here is that many of us care to follow the law because we share the same values as the legal system. We don't want to harm other people. But if you're the bad man, someone who's completely devoid of any sort of moral reasoning or moral motivations, then your motivation to follow the law will come from the price that the law exacts. So the bad men will think of the law as systems of prices, and if the price is sufficiently high, they will not engage in a bad action. If the price is sufficiently low, they will, and this is like reducible to that. And you can sort of see the similarities between the bad man and the agent, who may not be endowed with the same moral motivations as we are. Okay, so with that in mind, agents are constrained by resources. And if you are familiar with instrumental convergence thesis, this is a version of it. When agents are sent out to achieve long-term goals, we usually give them resources to obtain these goals. And by resources, I mean, let's say if I want the agent to go and buy stuff for me, I might give them an access to a wallet. Resources could also be the compute the agent needs to run. It could be storage space, many, many different things. And agents are going to go around and try to accomplish very, very different goals. But whatever their goals are, agents will prize and care in the sort of behavioral sense, not the motivational sense, about access to resources. They're constrained by resources. Having more resources means that they can accomplish their goals better. Having fewer resources will make it harder to achieve the goal. And because of the resource constraint, that creates governance leverage for us, because we can now, if we deprive the agent of resources, that makes it harder for the agent to accomplish its goals. And anticipating that, as a bad man, the potential for losing resources for misbehavior would align the agent ex ante to behave in socially desirable ways. So again, this is a Badman theory applied to AI agents, and the behavioral assumption here is that agents are price reactive. If you tell them that there is consequences to breaching the law, there are consequences, they might lose resources, then independently of what their goal is, it will affect their behavior and strategies in pursuing their goals. Okay, so all of that is sort of leading us up into, okay, that's great, so we might be able to directly govern agents and set consequences for agents. So if the agent misbehaves, these will be the consequences of that behavior, and that will complement the problem we have with the thin identity problem. Problem is, and this is the heart of the thick identity problem, what is an agent? This is somewhat of a metaphysical question. This is why we have a philosopher on board. Because it's hard to define what is an agent. There is the question of, is the agent even, when is an agent? Is it like between calls, like when you're not calling the agent, does it exist? Is it a state of sleep? When you have agents with humans, we can like identify different humans because we have the boundary of the physical body. Or you might say, well, it's not just the body, it's also the memories. My memories are unique to me, my emotions, whatever. With agents, we don't have these instruments or affordances because agents can spawn at will. They're ephemeral, they can come and go. You might actually take an agent that exists and branch it into two agents who share the same memory, but they are distinct in some sense. Agents may be built on different models. So one agent could be a Claude agent, another could be like a ChatGPT agent, but they may share the same goal. Are those the same agents? Are they distinct? All sort of like nasty problems about identifying agents. So that's a thick identity problem. It is very, very difficult to identify one specific agent, and that's essential for governance, because if the state cannot see the agents as being separate, if I'm going to punish you for the actions of some other agents, you're losing all the deterrence benefit. Our argument in the paper is that the A-Corp solves both problems. So the A-Corp is the Algorithmic Corporation, again, a separate legal entity that has inside agents. It has four features. First, separate legal personality. The A-Corp, like any other corporation, can sue people, but also can be sued, and also can be taxed, by the way. This is important as you think about sort of AGI and post-scarcity worlds. The A-Corp inside works with an operational key. It's like an identification. If you hold the key, digital key, it gives you access to the A-Corp's resources. So if I have the full key, I can access all the resources. Keys are wonderful because you can give fine-grained permissions. So if there are two agents inside the A-Corp, one can hold the master key and the other one can assign limited permissions. So you have access only to $1,000, not the entire bank account. The A-Corp regime would require know your client in certain situations. So if a bank interacts with a stranger and they want to open a bank account, the bank has an obligation to know who they're dealing with. If it's a human, just show us your passport. If it is an A-Corp, show us your registration, and that will be part of the regime. And the A-Corp is owned by humans. This is a point I would not normally emphasize, but it came into dispute in Yuval Noah Harari's analysis, so I'm mentioning it. And our contention is that having these features and having A-Corps that work this way solves both problems. It's very easy to see how this will get us through the thin identity problem, because you have an accident and you have registration of the A-Corps, you know which A-Corp was involved because they used the digital keys, and so you can trace back most accidents back into the relevant actor. So we have a solution to the thin identity problem, and it's incentive compatible in the sense that for A-Corps to take any meaningful economic activities, they would actually need to show their digital keys. 5 minutes left, that's great. And so we have a general solution. It's not perfect, but we have a general solution to the thin identity. The thick identity problem, which is the nasty problem of distinguishing between all those like small swarms of agents, is also solved because the A-Corp is an abstraction layer where the state does not have to see each individual agent or even have to define it. All it has to say is, you agent, you belong to this A-Corp. And it could be like a swarm of agents, could be, it just doesn't matter. It's an abstraction layer. And so when the A-Corp misbehaves, the state can go and deprive the A-Corp of its assets. And so the state does not have to solve this problem. Why I'm excited about A-Corps and why I think you should be excited too. And the reason, and really the whole motivation of the paper, is not to innovate in corporate law or even think about the economic benefits of having A-Corps. The true reason why we wrote this paper and why we care about it is because the notion of emergent alignment. That having A-Corps could help us make progress on the general alignment problem. Why is that? Well, first, if you can solve the thin identity problem, you can at the very least minimize the concern that people will send out agents to do nasty things. So if somebody sends out an agent to say, hey, run a Ponzi scheme for me, and if you can trace it back to the human, well, that's good. But if you think about the thick identity problem and the internal workings of the A-Corp, there is where you can see the emergent alignment coming from. Because what do you think will happen inside the A-Corp? There will be one big agent, one big agent, and then this agent will probably find it very useful to spawn many sub-agents, right? So there will be a swarm inside, and maybe one way of thinking about it. I don't know what the internal structure would look like. I think it's good to be sort of humble about even our imagination of understanding how it might evolve over time. But one sort of simplified model could be like an ant colony, where you have a queen, and you have all the ants running around. And the ants, by the way, the small sub-agents could be models that are very cheap from different providers. It's going to be a mess. The queen in this model is relying on the works of other agents, AI agents, and the AI agents may not be aligned with the queen's interests. The queen, or the internal workings of the A-Corp, will have to find a solution. How do you make sure that the agents you send out to the world are acting in ways that are aligned with your interests? That puts pressure internally on creating a system of corporate governance, making sure all the people within the corporation work in the same direction and don't create exposure to liability because maybe some of the agents don't care about the same things, don't have the same sort of long-term view, have like high discount factor, whatever it is. A-Corps will have to develop organically, if they want to exist, systems of control and audit. And we might actually learn from it, seeing how the A-Corp manages internal alignment. And second, if you think about the market more generally, a market where you have many A-Corps, they are going to, the A-Corps, you can imagine multiple equilibria, but at least one of them is where it pays to spend resources monitoring the behavior and misbehavior of other corporations. Because if I can, so think about the Lanham Act, so some law that gives you right as a competitor to punish your competitors when they are engaging in this misbehavior. In such situations, it actually pays for one A-Corp to spend some of its resources making sure the other ones are not misbehaving, reporting them when needed, and so we get like a policing boost out of that. And these are all emergent behaviors that emerge from the economic pressures on the A-Corps. A lot more work still remains to be done, and I want to hear your questions and thoughts of how to expand it, and even trying to understand some of the limits of this proposal, some nasty dynamics that might evolve. These are all open, interesting questions. But as the title says, I'm excited about this question. So I hope you're too. Thank you.